2018. It was a year. Seems like the last few years have been a year, but that's because they've just felt like years. Confused? Weirded out? Concerned for your safety? Good, because that's basically what I mean. But there were a good few things that came out of it, especially in the last few months, so today I figured I'd ramble about my top things of winter 2018. Rules are simple. The things I talk about have to have come out or finished in the last 3 months of 2018, and I have to have watched or played or read or etc. in them. And don't worry, I'll do my best to keep these discussions as spoiler-free as I can, just in case anything I talk about happens to pique your interest. So, without further ado... Venom is a superhero movie based on the character of the same name and features Eddie Brock, an investigative reporter who was looking into the shady business practices of... Shady Company Number 72 gets infected by a parasitic alien lifeform that grants him monstrous abilities, and an action thriller of fluctuating proportions ensues. I feel like there's two reactions people end up having to this movie. The correct one,
why do you insist we watch this stupid thing?
And my one.
Am I the only one who understands the complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece? This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid!
Oh, Billy, why you gotta be like that?
Jokes aside, I really like this movie, and not in a so bad it's good way, in a this is actually enjoyable kind of way. Despite its awkward dialogue, its nonsensically strained plot points, its confusing characterization, and so much wonky weirdness, it's really fun. If anything, all those individually mediocre elements coalesce into something that's more than the sum of its parts. Granted, part of that may just come from me fanboying at how good Venom looks, but still. It has this tongue-in-cheek nature that makes it feel more like a B-movie than a proper blockbuster, and it's what makes it work for me. Like, there's a part where in the middle of a chase scene, the bad guys start using drones to stop Eddie by fucking exploding them into his bike. Yes, it's just as stupid as it sounds, and it's amazing. Though the highlighted film is definitely Eddie and Venom's relationship. Their chemistry and dialogue works really well, with them constantly making quotable quips and jokes that's backed by the strong sense of genuine connection between them, that some have even interpreted as romantic, and I sort of agree.
What really made you change your mind?
Hell, I'd kinda like to see them lean into it more in the sequel, just for the fuck of it. Though it probably only works because Tom Hardy also voices Venom, so it's essentially just Tom Hardy playing with himself, which opens a whole can of worms I really don't have the energy to think about. Not to sound douchey, but I cannot describe this movie as anything other than an entertaining shit show. There's so much that just shouldn't work, that somehow clicks in just the right way, to make something that's still bad, but that's genuinely engaging nonetheless. Though, if you're looking for something that's actually good... Daredevil is a Netflix series based on the comics of the same name, which follows Matthew Murdock, a blind man who works as a lawyer by day and a masked vigilante by night. This third season sees the devil of Hell's Kitchen come back from the brink of death as Wilson Fisk consolidates his power, and we watch the titular hero grapple with the moral and philosophical foundations he'd built his double life off of, as he and his friends see the systems they'd put their faith into crumble under Fisk's corruption. It brings the story back down to the gritty, grounded, and intensely personal level that made Netflix's Marvel property such a phenomenon in the first place, and hits it out of the park. Its characters are as strong as ever and are only made stronger thanks to its cast's incredible performances, with even new characters feeling as fully realized and developed as ones who've had 2 or 3 seasons to do so, such as Ray Nadeem, a conflicted FBI agent whose story easily steals the show, and Benjamin Poindexter, a villain whose depth and complexity is on par with Wilson Fisk's. The action hits hard, outdoing what the series had already achieved through its sheer brutality and scope, with this season's take on the one-shot hallway fight being a full 10-minute prison riot brawl with no cuts. The visual direction, though on the nose with its symbolism, is packed with interesting imagery, and not a single second of it feels wasted. Every plot point comes in at and is given just the right amount of time to hit without dragging, and build off each other so well and so quickly that its momentum alone had me desperate to see the next episode. And watching it play out, I found it leading me back to a single question. Are the means ever justified? Sure, it's been asked many times before and will continue to for as long as humans exist, but this season's exploration of the grey area inherent to it is fascinating. The lines are so blurred that the characters don't just wonder about whether or not they're willing to cross them, they're trying to figure out whether or not they already have and when and where they did it. It's a dense, tense, and visceral story with some powerful twists and turns, and is not only one of the best written superhero stories I've ever seen, but is also my favourite season of Daredevil and of Netflix's Marvel shows, which is a real shame since it's also one of the last. I can understand Netflix's decision to cancel it, but it's still sad to see such a great series come to an end after reaching such an outstanding high. Though it does end, and that's probably for the best. It's rare that a series gets to finish on such a satisfying note, and though it's frustrating to think about what could have been, I can appreciate that Daredevil got to bring its story to a proper close. On the lighter side of things, Hilda, based on the graphic novel of the same name, is a fantasy adventure series about a young blue-haired girl named, well, Hilda, as she and her friends explore all the magical nooks and crannies of a world inspired by Scandinavian folklore and mythology. And I know it came out in September, so shouldn't really count here, but it was near the end of September, and I've seen barely anyone talk about this show, so fuck it. Rules are made to be broken. I adore the artwork and atmosphere of this show. The animation is bouncy and fluid, the lines have this nice texture that adds to its rustic feel, the colors are a nice autumn palette, the background art is fantastic, the character and monster designs are cartoony and creative, and I really like how they draw background characters. With the simplified little version of themselves, it's a nice detail. Its world has a strong sense of whimsy about it that just makes me want to dive in and explore, and considering how much of it stems from folklore and mythology, it's quite a bonus for a mythology and folklore nut like myself. The characters are also great, each with their own distinct personalities and quirks that bounce off each other well, especially Hilda herself, whose plucky attitude, natural curiosity, and intense determination is always a delight to watch. It's a fun and cozy show with a wholesome atmosphere and world that, more than anything else, reminds us that life is filled with so much wonder and joy just waiting to be discovered around every corner. You just need to pay attention. Okay, let's see what's happening with anime this season. We got some fantasy bullshit about total genocide, some mecha bullshit about thick thighs, some sports bullshit about thick boy sumo fights, some Yuri bullshit about two girls becoming each other's high school wives, some idol bullshit about cute girls losing their lives, and you know exactly where this is going. Zombieland SAGA is an original anime series about a group of girls from various points in Japanese history who've been revived as zombies by a mysterious man in sunglasses to form an undead idol group and revitalize the economy of Japan's Saga Prefecture. For a variety of reasons, Zombieland SAGA ended up being the only anime I actually kept up with this season, though I do have a few I want to catch up on, and I'm glad I did, because it is about as weird and ridiculous as it sounds, and I loved almost every second of it. There's a palpable sense of passion that radiates throughout every episode. It takes full advantage of its premise for some over-the-top body and just horrifying horror, with the art and animation amplifying the insanity of it all. This extends to the characters as well, whose over-the-top personalities and respective archetypal absurdity constantly comes into conflict in one way or another. The standout highlights are of course Kotaro and Saki, whose unabashed determination always makes for some good times. And with his cast being from various points in time, it leads to an interesting dynamic between them as they all struggle to understand and come to terms with the modern world and their place in it, which makes for some great character arcs and some strong commentary on how Japan's entertainment industry has changed over the years, with episode 8 being my personal favourite, which, spoilers by the way, skip to this timestamp if you want to avoid them. Manages to tie together themes of the dangers of overworking, the exploitation of children in the entertainment industry, the struggles of parenthood, coping with loss, and even trans issues into one giant emotional uppercut of an episode. Anyway, I am disappointed they didn't stick with the heavy metal shtick, but the show still put out some pretty catchy tunes. Hell, it was the rap in episode 2 that sold me on the show in the first place. And granted, the pacing and artwork does start to lose its steam in the middle, but those episodes also happen to be some of the most emotionally impactful of the series, so I think it's a fair trade-off.
Hey! way!
Zombieland SAGA is an over-the-top show that has a lot of fun with its premise, both to entertain and to sucker punch you with some feels. And that has started to change my mind about idol shows. Maybe I'll check out a few more, you know, just to see what they're like. And some of those gacha games seem cool, they have nice music and artwork. Sure, it costs a few extra bucks, but hey, I don't have an addictive personality, it won't be that much of a problem. Just a few more rolls, it's not that much. I just need that fucking Nico card, just let me try one more time. I don't have a problem, just give me one more roll, I need it! From the studio that brought you the fucking Emoji Movie comes not only the best Spider-Man movie ever made, but the most visually imaginative, inventive, and innovative animated movies of the year, if not the last decade. In my opinion, of course. It follows Miles Morales, a high schooler who, after being bitten by a radioactive spider, runs into Spider-Man and alongside a whole host of other spider people, must stop the Kingpin before he opens a rift in the multiverse that will destroy Miles' reality, whilst he learns to control his newfound powers. The animation alone makes this worth seeing several times. It's so damn colorful and vibrant and mixes multiple aesthetics and design philosophies into a single collective style without any of it feeling off. It's filled to the brim with so many tiny details that add to its artistic flair, from using Ben-Day dots and chromatic aberration for background blur to the way they handle smears and background characters, to all the little speed lines drawn into the action scenes and even the way they use pop-up text for the sound effects. It's all the more impressive when you consider that Sony had to develop new softwares just to render it all properly. That same idea also plays into the movie's story, while with it not only having to introduce and flesh out 7 different spider people whose popularity ranges from mainstream to obscure, but also having to pack a ridiculous amount of references into its plot, and it did a pretty damn good job of it. It has this self-awareness that both lets it string together some great gags, including a post-credit scene I'm sure the more meme-savvy viewers will appreciate, and spin a fun story about identity and the expectations put on people by the world around them, with all these unique people isolated from their homes because of circumstances beyond their control, finding solace in the community they formed together, and Miles trying to make sense of his own place in it whilst doing his best to make his family proud. It's a hard journey fraught with all sorts of obstacles and tragedies he's just not ready for, and that's the point. You never know what life's got in store for you, and you never will. But if you don't at least try, you'll never find out what could be waiting. It's a leap of faith that everyone has to make. My only real problem with it is that in comparison to the main cast, the villains feel quite one note. Designs are pretty cool though, especially this big old chungus of a man. And there's a surprise villain who's an absolute delight to see on screen. Spiderverse is an amazing film that pushes the boundaries of its medium while telling a compelling story that strikes a perfect balance with its humor, emotions, and wide cast of conceptually and aesthetically distinct characters. It's a spectacular feat of astonishing animation, and I swear to God, if it doesn't win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, I am calling shenanigans. I know this is connected to an animated series, but as a special, it would technically be closer in definition to a film than to a show, so screw it. Don't at me over semantics, please. Anyway, in this extended episode of the workplace-based show about a metal-loving red panda, we watch our titular character become obsessed with Instagram, and on Christmas Eve, go out to snap that perfect picture for that perfect post to get all those perfect likes. It's more of that painfully relatable comedy and drama that made the first season of the series so beloved, with the jokes and gags being as clever as ever. But I'm most impressed by its exploration of social media. It isn't just a story about how it's bad, but about what happens when people put too much weight into their digital footprint. The stress they put on themselves over all those numbers and likes. The lengths they go to for that rush of endorphins and the damage it can do when someone's entire sense of self-worth is defined by those imaginary numbers. It's something I think a lot of us, like with most things in the show, can relate to maybe just a little bit too much. It's a trap that's easy to fall into and hard to pull yourself out of, and is something I think a lot of people may need to be a bit more wary of. It's a well-made episode with some interesting themes that's both fun and possibly helpful, as you never know when social media fever may strike. Deltarune is a game where you can make decisions because fuck you! Choice is an illusion, existence is meaningless. Our only purpose is to serve the hive mind. Join today and get a 25% discount on membership fees. And surgery costs too. Wait, wrong script. Deltarune is a game developed by Deltarune is an RPG adventure about a quiet kid called Gris and a sadistic school bully named Susie, who, after being sent to get some chalk from the supply closet, fall into a fantasy world on the verge of collapse, and must go on a grand journey with the precious Prince of Darkness Ralsei to save it. Being the follow-up to Toby Fox's indie hit Undertale, there were obviously a lot of expectations this game had to live up to, which is only emphasized by how many references this game has to its predecessor. but I think it not only lives up to them, but also stands on its own as a solid experience. The party-based fight act system gives the combat an extra layer of complexity, and the combat encounters themselves are more than happy to play around with their mechanics for a good time. The music is, to quote Etika, sexy! But above all, it's the characters and comedy that take center stage in this game for me. It's full of goofy humor to have me chuckling the whole way through, and its characters and their relationships feel well fleshed out. From the do-gooder Rousey's unstoppable optimism to the chaotic kinship between Susie and Lancer, and their grand plans of destruction that just never seem to work out. Look, taking over the world is hard work, alright? Leave them alone. But more impactful is the way its main cast develops over the course of the story, as they're forced to confront the realities of their choices and situations. It's a heartwarming story about the power of friendship and how we don't really have any control over the hand we're dealt when we enter this world. But we do get to choose how we play those cards. It's a damn fine game with some strong mechanics, great music, fun characters, and a meaningful story. And best of all, it's free, so you have no excuse to not play. Go! Do it! Now. Or after the video's over, it's up to you, really. Gris is a 2D platformer about a young girl bringing color back to a broken world. It's a pretty simple game. There are a few clever puzzles and mechanics, but nothing ever felt impossible to get past, except for the odd time where my lack of attention to detail left me dumbfounded for an embarrassing few minutes. But the main draw of the game for me is in the experience it presents. The painterly artwork is fantastic, and there were many moments throughout that left me in awe of its visuals. Its music is equally as beautiful, and its soothing orchestral suite lulled me into such a calm state I started to lose track of how long I'd been playing. It blends its simple gameplay, pleasant art, and gentle music together into a relaxed atmosphere that I practically swam through. It's pretty nice, almost therapeutic in a way, which is fitting given the themes of its story. There's no dialogue and very little text, so everything is communicated through imagery and symbolism. But it's pretty clear to see what's going on as you go about trying to rebuild this world after tragedy strikes, pushing through roaring winds and shrieking demons to restore what you've lost. It's ultimately a story about moving on. Sure, it may be a bit too artsy-fartsy for some, but I found it to be a beautiful game with a beautiful message that, for anyone looking for something a bit more artistic to play, or for something to chill with, may be just the game you're looking for. Though, if you're strapped for cash, it may be worth waiting for a sale before checking it out, as it is a relatively short game, about 4 hours for a normal playthrough, with a comparatively high price, at about €17. I usually find time to price critiques to be a bit arbitrary, but in this case I think it's at least worth pointing out. Every now and then I run into something that I think needs way more recognition than it gets, and the Anituber Anthology is one of them. It's a yearly collaboration in the anime YouTube or Anitube community put together by Mr. Nice Guy that features creators of all different styles and niches having a chance to flex their skills. This year's edition focuses on the legacy of the late Isao Takahata, co-founder of Studio Ghibli and one of the most influential directors of the anime world, who himself also often went unrecognized as a creator. On the one hand, it's a thoughtful exploration of Takahata's work, and is a wonderful celebration of the legendary director's career. And on the other hand, it's an impressive feat of collaboration that brings so many different creators together to shine, giving a spotlight to channels both big and small, contemplations on the nature of lost art, to detailed breakdowns and loving reviews, and so much more. And more specifically, I just have to give props to Mr. Nice Guy for doing such a great job with organizing it every year. Considering how much editing work he does all across Anitube, it's insane to think he ever has the time to pull something like this off at all. I doubt my shoutout will be able to do much for it, but a lot of love and effort went into the project, and I think every little bit of extra recognition it can get is pretty great. This anime and music video is one of the most surreal ones I've seen in a while. The music is obviously pretty damn great, and the artwork is reminiscent of classic science fiction art, with its panel-based shots providing a unique visual direction that emphasizes the chaotic nature of its short narrative. It's one of those videos that's easy to just zone out to and lose yourself in, but it also has some interesting ideas about fear and anxiety, how we deal with them, whether it stemmed from the primal panic of trying to survive to the next day, or the existential dread of being othered for things beyond one's control. Cause, you know, society and stuff. It's a fantastic piece of animation, and if after watching it you want some more trippy goodness, SIAMÉS has another music video from a while back called The Wolf, a mostly black and white animation of various people being hunted down by, well, wolves, which has a similar through line of people coping with fear and stress, and is just as smooth and surreal as Mr. Fear, if not more so. I don't listen to Snail House's music that often, but I always enjoy their music videos. And this time around is no different. It's just such a happy animation. The music is bouncy and upbeat, the art is a vibrant treat. It's so full of color, with designs and animations so wonderfully simple but surprisingly effective in filling you with an odd sense of awestruck wonder. And if you're anything like me, you'll probably get caught watching it on loop just to let all the color sink in. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed this pilot episode of this new series, I guess you'd call it. It was pretty fun to put together, though I'm terrified by the length of it. I'm trying not to make long videos a habit, because they always end up being so damn stressful to edit, especially the audio. And I worry about the writing getting loose and rambly with them, but it is what it is. Though, I am impressed I'm able to make them this long in the first place. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, what your top things of winter 2018 are, what you're excited for in the next few months. Personally, I can't wait for the new seasons of Mob Psycho and Kakegurui, etc. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, then check out my last video where I discuss independent animation's strained history on YouTube, and the myriad ways it's changed and evolved over the years. Or check out my breakdown of the tragic story arc of Dr. Otto Octavius from Marvel's Spider-Man, and what can be learned from it. And be sure to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly with me. You can also follow me on Twitter for more updates about this channel and other stuff, and hopefully, I'll see you later.